Hello, good evening. It is Sunday night, and you kind of know what that means. It's SNL, Sunday Night League on a Sunday night. It's been a while since we've been able to say that. And we are here with the F1 podcast. It is a little bit later than usual. I say usual, we've only had 2 episodes prior to this. It's like it's a long-standing thing. Anyway, this is the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix review, as well as all the other news that has happened in F1 as we come to you this Sunday night. We are live on YouTube. Please like, share, subscribe, comment in the chat. This is live. We can chat to you live. I can say live once more if you want. There's live again. Let's do some more live chat on the chat. Like, share, and subscribe. It is SNL's birthday as well. It is a year ago this weekend that SNL started with its first events, the Porsche Cup Season 1 and Formula X Season 2 at Lago Maggiore. And I am joined tonight by somebody that wasn't there the first night of SNL. He's a jolly come lately. I say that. He came in Season 3 of... Oh no, he came later in Season 2 of Formula X.
No.
Halfway through Season 2. I'm forgetting myself. It is SNL Wolfbane. Good evening, SNL Wolfbane.
Good evening.
How are you?
I am very, very good, yes.
Very, very, very good.
Very good.
That's great. So, we're a week after the event, so... Things have calmed down a little bit in Formula 1, but the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, thoughts?
It was a great race. I loved it. It was a really interesting race because there was. I mean, we'll obviously get onto it later, but you had Hamilton a little further behind than normal, with the obvious pace in the car to come back through. With Russell qualifying in P5, was it? I can't remember. It's been that long. And then there was the battle up front with Verstappen and Leclerc, and it was a great race. It is a great track. It was a great race. It had its moments of oh dear, and slightly worse than oh dear, but I really enjoyed it.
It's always going to be controversial going to Saudi Arabia, and it definitely was controversial, obviously, with the missile strike prior to qualifying on the Saturdays, with the 4-hour driver meeting as well on the Friday night. It was interesting, actually, because I was trying to find the highlights of FP2, and they were not put onto the YouTube channel until the Saturday morning. So whether they were thinking that there was a strong possibility of the event being cancelled, I do not know. But I was very surprised the event went ahead anyway. It's an awkward situation for everybody involved, and I did see a few journalists saying we shouldn't actually be here this weekend, but that is what racing in Saudi Arabia kind of is. And unfortunately, F1's signed a 15-year contract that is very tricky to get out of.
Yeah. It's always going to be a risky one. I don't think there's any question in that. And if the drivers are willing to take the risk, yeah, it's a very difficult one to talk about, I think, because
it isn't. Sorry.
No, carry on.
Oh, well, I was going to say Sebastian Vettel possibly was pleased it was a race he was missing due to COVID. And as you say, it is a tricky one. There are going to be these issues. F1's argument is, well, you have to come to these countries to show how they can improve. Well, okay, but it's just a bit of an awkward position where you have obviously the war going on in the Ukraine, and then you've got missiles being launched 15 minutes away from an actual international sporting event. It's awkward. But let's get to the track. Let's get to the racing. And you said it's a great track. It did have its victims.
It did, yeah.
The biggest one being Mick Schumacher in qualifying. He just got onto the curb a bit too much and got spun round and broke pretty much every single piece of his hat.
Yeah, there wasn't much of that car left.
No, and Haas sort of said, well, we're not going to put you in the race because, one, we don't think we have enough spare parts if there's another big crash, and two, also, you've taken a big impact, so we'll maybe sit this one out. But there was a similar crash in Formula 2. It's a circuit with a lot of fast corners with blind entries, and I don't know. It feels like one of those circuits where something big might happen.
Yeah, there's no question about it being a dangerous circuit. It's very fast with lots of blind, as you said, very blind, fast corners. It is a track that is built to be dangerous, which in itself is somewhat controversial. Let alone the country it's in.
Take a track in a country that has dangerous pastimes. It's not a great combination, and if something bad happens, then it's not going to be good. Obviously, because it's something bad. But it's not the ideal. The sooner they can go to a more permanent circuit, the better. I think with this, and
I like the circuit, but I agree with you.
I don't to be a killjoy, but
No,
it just seems like it's unnecessary risk.
Yeah.
So let's go to. Sorry.
It's one of those circuits I'd love to see in a game. Obviously, it's in the F1 games, but it would be great to race the game because there's no threat.
Well, exactly. It's one of those fantasy tracks that you can just race along. It's like back in the day in GT, because we are a GT league. If you do not know, SNL is a GT league, GT Sport League initially, a GT7 league, trying to be. The Seattle Street Circuit. I forget which game that was on, but that was fantastic. It would never exist in real life because of the jumps, but it was fantastic to drive.
I have heard tale of it.
Oh, it was brilliant. I think it was GT3. I think that was on, and it was an epic circuit.
Gran Turismo 2 and 3 and 4 apparently. Oh yeah.
Let's go to qualifying, though. Back to qualifying, and Lewis Hamilton out in Q1 due to setup issues. He'd gone a bit different with the way he'd set up his Mercedes, but clearly that Mercedes is not where it should be. He qualified P16 and was out in Q1 on pace for the first time since Silverstone in 2009. And not a happy chappy.
No, he's always been. It's noticeable this season. He's always very. I don't want to say relaxed, but something goes wrong and he's not. He doesn't overreact about it, and it was. You could tell just by listening to what Mercedes was saying and what he was saying that they were. I'm gonna say somewhat stumped as to what the problem was there. Because it's, I think, relatively unusual for there to be... Well, I say that. There was only, in Q1, there was 7 tenths between the two drivers, which is a fairly large margin, but that's bizarre, I think is the only way to describe it.
I think Toto Wolff explained it that they'd gone a different route with Hamilton's setup, and they quickly discovered it was the wrong way to go, but couldn't go back on it. They didn't have enough time to go back to Russell's setup. They'd gone very different with the way it was set up with the car, and it was clearly wrong. And his race pace, we'll get onto the race, his race pace seemed relatively good. So, it was just a very unusual qualifying session, but also very unusual was the man who was on pole position. First time out, first time for the young rookie Sergio Perez. on his 215th start. He got pole position, started on pole for Red Bull. He said it was a phenomenal lap, and he doesn't really know where it came from. But yeah, very impressive from the Mexican.
It was coming. He's been put in that car, and it was, I think, only a matter of time until he got that pole position, and he did get it finally.
He looks more at home in that car as well this season compared to last season. He seems it's an easier beast to tame than the very, very pointy Red Bull from last year. It seems it's got a bit more understeer in it, and Perez likes a bit of understeer, and it's more suiting to him. So yeah, he's a lot closer to Verstappen, and yeah, it's good to see. And in the race, he was looking very comfortable.
He was looking very, very comfortable, and then it all went downhill.
Yes, he was holding off Leclerc at the first 15 laps. He then made his pit stop. Leclerc, the Ferrari team said they were going to pits. Perez pitted. Leclerc stayed out. And then a Williams hit the barrier and caused a safety car. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Nicholas Latifi in the wall. And virtual safety car and then safety car. Everybody pits, and Perez loses the positions, loses track time, because his live green flag pit stop cost him, was it about 8 seconds more than those around him?
It was significantly enough. That's English. It was a large enough time that he was dropped down to I was going to say P4, I think. It might have been lower.
He was P4 because he had to give the place back to Sainz.
Yes.
Sainz came out the pit lane and got a little bit of a squeeze from Perez during the safety car, which was interesting. But yeah, Red Bull quickly put Sainz back in front of Perez, and that's kind of where that battle finished, really. Perez and Sainz kind of held position from then on, which was a shame. But a team that weren't holding position were Alpine.
I mean, I may not like the pink Alpine or the blue Alpine this year, but the two drivers have just been battling all the time at every available opportunity. It's brilliant to watch. It's great that they're being allowed to race. And
I think Otmar might not want them to race quite as hard as they were doing in Saudi Arabia.
Maybe not, but
there was a point Ocon nearly sent Alonso into the wall.
Yeah. They both, in any interviews that they get asked about the battles, they both sound like they were just really enjoying it, which is good. And it is. I don't think they'd have been able to battle like that in last year's car.
No, it's definitely a great advert for these new regulations and the way these cars seem to handle. And Ocon actually this weekend has actually commented and said the cars feel like go-karts in comparison. They're really nice to handle, and you can put them wherever you like them. And he really was showing that with the battle with Alonso. They were going side by side through the first turn complex and really attacking each other. They're very closely matched. Salek is in the chat. Good evening, Salek. Nice to see that you are here. We've got some other people there as well. Say hello. Don't just stalk us. Or maybe you're busy and you're listening to us and you're maybe racing somewhere. So, yeah, the Alpines very closely matched, which we said in our pre-season show as well. So it validates our opinions. You know, it makes it sound like we know what we're talking about, which is always good. So, yes, virtual safety car, lap 36, lap 37, lap 38, we had a spate of retirements, starting with Alonso going slowly in his Alpine. Just no power. Then Daniel Ricciardo stopping just in front of the pit lane entrance, and Bottas pulling into the pits and retiring on the spot. And Ricciardo and Alonso actually causing issues on the pit entrance. And that stopped Lewis Hamilton, who'd run long on his tyres, doing his pit stop, and he missed out as they closed the pit lane, and he was running 6th place at the time.
It was looking really good for him, and then they closed the pit lane as he rounded the final corner.
So he wasn't able to stop, and then 5 laps under safety car. He pits after that to get his pit stop out of the way, but drops down to about 12th. But that meant that the battle at the front, where Leclerc was leading, he'd inherited the lead, he'd got Verstappen behind him, then it was a battle. Then it was 10 laps to the end of the Grand Prix, where Verstappen and Leclerc recommenced their battle from Bahrain with some brilliant tactical moves and some brilliant race-to-race racing.
It was looking like a matter of time for Verstappen to overtake Leclerc, I think. Because, I mean, you could see they were doing the same thing as they did at Bahrain, and it was only going to be a matter of time until one of them worked out that maybe it was, or I should say, Verstappen worked out that maybe it was better to not overtake on the main back straight and do it down into the first corner, which obviously he did.
It was great seeing them positioning their car, going, right, I don't want to be passed at this point yet, I need to delay it here. Oh, I've just messed that up a bit, here we go, and I've got to get another chance. It was, some people said it wasn't racing, but no, that's tactical racing. You've got to sort of use everything to your benefit.
Absolutely.
We've got Pat in the chat. Hello, Pat. Pat's saying that there is going to be a permanent venue. I did think there was going to be one built. It's due 2024, but probably 2026 now. Further changes are coming for next year. I think what Saudi Arabia struggled with was it's only been a short period of time from the races. They've only had about 3 months between races.
Yeah,
so they've not been able to change much.
No, I think there'll be a lot longer period of time, because I feel like they've probably got this as a fairly secure start of the season race. I think
sort of they've got a year to help maybe reposition some bits and pieces. Flashman's in the chat as well. Good evening, Flashman. He is here too. So that battle between Verstappen and Leclerc, very respectful still. We haven't got to the point where they're bashing wheels yet, but you know, there's plenty of time. That's only the second race of the season. They're definitely very close, definitely fighting. A great sort of learning as well from Verstappen, because he used sort of his move on lap 42. It was his first chance, but Leclerc took him into turn 1 on lap 43. Then that same lap, Verstappen tried again, but he lost the advantage. He sort of got a bit scrappy and lost the slipstream with Leclerc. But then lap 46 into 47, he was able to get it all sorted out and go for the win. But Leclerc was always there. It was less than half a second between the two at the end of the race.
Yeah. I think it proved what we already thought from Bahrain, that the Red Bull is just so fast in a straight line in comparison to the Ferrari. It's, as I said earlier, it was just a matter of time until the Red Bull got through, and once it was through, Leclerc had a much harder time to try and get back past than Verstappen did.
It's where the Ferrari generates sort of its acceleration. There wasn't the opportunity at Jeddah, was there? The sort of slow corners, which it will be interesting going into Melbourne, seeing the difference between the cars there, because that's obviously, it's still a street circuit, but it's semi-permanent, really. It'd be nice to go back to Australia. Obviously, the last time we went was 2020, and we turned up and didn't have a race, so it's great to have it back on the calendar. It's been missed as well.
A couple of changes to the track as well, I think.
Oh yes, the sweeping S's. Yeah, opened up the corners at the back of the circuit.
They have.
Which, talking of Australia, who do you think will have the advantage there?
I think it's going to be a close one. I think the Red Bull's always going to look strong. I think if it were the old layout, I think I would say the Ferrari, but I think the Red Bull's going to look stronger because of them opening up the corners in the back of the track. They've made just looking at the layout, it looks like they've made it a lot faster, which I think benefits the Red Bull more than it does the Ferrari.
Yeah, I'm in agreement, to be honest. I think if it was the old layout at Melbourne, we'd have Ferrari up on top. But yeah, those sweeping sections look a lot more like the Jeddah sweeps, and that is where the Red Bull looked really strong.
Yeah.
So, I mean, pressure's on. Who would you go then? Who would you say will win at Melbourne?
I think it's got to be Verstappen. I can't see Perez winning at Melbourne. I don't think. As much as I really like Perez, I don't think he's going to beat Verstappen at Melbourne. Yeah, I think Verstappen.
No, I am in agreement, and so far I've got 100% on the wins. Not to toot my own trumpet, but I have. I said Leclerc
every time, I think.
I said Verstappen at Jeddah. So, going Verstappen again. I wonder. Obviously, Australia is going into its autumn time. It's now autumn there. Last time we had a race in sort of April time at Melbourne, Jenson Button won in a very mixed condition race. I wonder if we'll get some rain and see what these cars are like in a bit of a wet and tricky setup.
That would be good to see, because when it rains in Melbourne, it doesn't just rain. It's normally quite interesting when it rains at Melbourne.
I remember many qualifying sessions getting up ready to watch them and them being delayed because of rain. A picture came up on my memories a few weeks ago of that very thing happening. I think it was in 2014, I think was the year. There was a lot of rain happening that day. So we've got Melbourne happening. We've just been to a relatively new circuit, and this week it has been announced that Formula One is going to Las Vegas for the first time in 40 years. In 40 years, since the Caesars Palace Car Park Grand Prix, which, having watched highlights of it, looked absolutely awful. But this looks a lot more exciting, a lot more interesting. It's going to be late on a Saturday night as well, which is interesting. But that means it's 6 o'clock in the UK.
6 o'clock in the morning for us.
Yeah, just like the Japanese Grand Prix.
Yep. Yeah, it's an interesting layout. I'm not 100% sure what I think of it.
It will be interesting to see how Miami works out. They're going there very shortly. That's in May, I believe, isn't it, Miami? Which will be having gone to Melbourne, and we've got Imola as well later this month.
Yeah,
Miami's going to be an interesting one because obviously F1 has pushed. Liberty want 3 races in America, and it's always been the case. Like, you need more than 1 race in America to crack America. You need. I think
America is such a big country with such a variety of, like, yes, there's a lot of other countries, but I don't think there's any country that's quite has the volume of enjoyment of racing to sheer size of a country that America has. And I think multiple races there, while they're like, oh yes, it is still the American Grand Prix, it could be 2 completely different places in the country. And it's, I think it's going to be interesting. I've never been a big fan of COTA. It just feels like it's stealing from other tracks more than anything.
That's a very valid point, actually.
It's all the best bits of COTA come from other tracks. It's like, yes, I get that, but also it feels like you could have come up with something more interesting. Miami is an interesting layout. Just looking at the track layout now, it's going to favour the Red Bull, I think. There's a lot of... There are some twisty sections, but there are some less twisty sections, and... I mean, that Las Vegas track looks utterly insane. It's... It's going to be a very fast track, I think.
It's strange how the design of street circuits has gone to the fast route.
Yeah.
The one prior to Jeddah was Singapore, and Singapore is a very slow sort of
there was Baku
twisty
as well,
section.
In between.
Oh, there's Baku as well, which actually Baku's fast as well. Baku's
It's very
crazily fast
yeah.
too.
Singapore is one of my favourite tracks around
Singapore,
the world.
yeah.
It's brilliant.
Singapore with the old Singapore sling. I know it's horrible to look at as a viewer, but on the F1 games, I used to love flinging the car through the Singapore sling. It used to be one of my favourite sections.
Yeah. They've just flattened it out.
But it's just become a corner now. It's not got any character to it at all. But
it's a bit dull of a corner, but yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting to see how it's going to all work, and it's great F1 going to new places. It's exciting. It always is. A brand new circuit's always great. I mean, we'll never go to Thailand.
No.
That's gone. That's 2020 Formula One game did have it, but it will never exist, unfortunately. Now that opportunity is gone. And yeah, it will be interesting to see what races have to sort of do a shuffle and rotate their venues, because otherwise we're going to end up with a 25 race season, which the teams have said, look, our crews are absolutely shattered. We can't maintain this if we've got to keep within the cost cap.
Just looking at a list of information of tracks we know will be on next season's calendar, there is an awful lot of street races. There is 8, 9, maybe more. It's almost ridiculous. But street tracks do provide brilliant racing.
It's bringing the sport to the people rather than people to the sport, and that's sort of, they've got to get that mix. Formula E obviously has the street circuits as their venues, and it goes straight to where the people are. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. It'd be nice to see some more traditional circuits. Qatar is getting a brand new circuit, isn't it? And Saudi Arabia, as we've said, is getting one, so they should be amazing. We'll never get that Russian race, as we've discussed before, that they were going to build a new circuit in Russia. Pat saying about COTA, does sometimes feel like a selection of Herman Tilke's best bits. It does, Pat. I don't know with COTA whether it suffers from, obviously, a British time stamp. It's on later on in the evening, and it kind of feels like another world, in a way.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the tracks he's designed. There's a lot of bits of those tracks that are all in COTA. COTA kind of feels like a culmination of all of the tracks he's designed, or a lot of the tracks he's designed, plus a few of the more legendary tracks, shall we say. It's, yeah.
Pat raising a very interesting point as well. The Concord Agreement only allows 24 races, so something's going to have to go to fit the existing races, as well as Vegas, Qatar, and the rumoured Shanghai return. Of course, no Chinese Grand Prix still.
In my potentially controversial opinion, I don't think China should stay on the calendar at all. It feels like it's trying to do what Bahrain does, but worse.
But they've now got Guan Yin Zhou
True.
to cheer.
Yeah, true.
And also, I think they signed a new contract, didn't they, for
dear.
an extra 10 seasons or something
Yeah.
recently. So yeah, there is that. But I mean, there's places that Formula One goes to that are probably worse than China. So
Yeah.
Money talks.
Probably.
It's very tricky situation if we start talking about those sorts of things, which we have spoken about. Just going back to the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, McLaren off the mark. Lando Norris getting in 7th place, first points for McLaren, which encouraging, but still problems for that
Encouraging.
car and that team.
Yeah, the car still looks horrendous, and it is P7, but it's P7 with a massive caveat that only 14 drivers finished the race. I think that there is still problems with both that car and the Mercedes. I think more than it's.
There's a lot of work. There's a lot of issues, a lot of head scratching going on at McLaren, which is never nice to see. We said in the pre-season that they are a team we hoped for great things, but obviously the car is not ready to do those things, and that's a major issue. So I'll just do the race rundown, because I remember I didn't do that. We just kind of went into Las Vegas and started talking about that. So Verstappen won, Leclerc was second, but he got the fastest lap. Third was Sainz, fourth Perez, fifth Russell in the Mercedes, kind of on his own. Sixth Ocon, pipping Norris on the line, he was seventh. Eighth Gasly, ninth Magnussen, again impressive for Haas, and 10th was Hamilton. So the top 10 in the championship for the drivers: Leclerc first with 45, Sainz 33, Verstappen 25, Russell 22, Hamilton 16, Ocon 14, Perez 12, Magnussen 12, Bottas 8, Norris 6. And in the teams, Ferrari lead with 78 points, a huge 40-point lead over Mercedes with 38, Red Bull 37, Alpine 16, Haas 12, Alfa Romeo 9, AlphaTauri 8, McLaren 6, and Aston Martin and Williams are yet to score. Pat's in the chat again. China has a contract until 2025. They renewed in November 21. I assume to make up for the lost races. So that was what I was remembering. Thank you very much, Pat, keeping us right in the chat. So there we go. So that's sort of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Any other news that you can think of, Wolfbane? I think we've covered most of it.
Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
It was mainly Las Vegas, Melbourne next, obviously. We've discussed, we think that Max is going to win, so I've predicted that, so that's going to happen, obviously.
Yep.
So, shall we go on to something that we mentioned earlier? It is SNL's birthday this weekend. It's the first year of SNL racing. We do have Daytona happening next week, which is our first GT7 event, which is an hour race. We don't know yet if it'll be broadcast live due to just all of the well-known problems is the word. Probably problems is the right word with GT7 at the moment.
Yeah.
It's getting a bad press. It is a great game to play. It's just not very multiplayer friendly at the moment.
Yeah, very much so.
Being a racing league that primarily uses GT Sport before, the jump to GT7 has not been smooth. And yeah, we are looking at it. We are looking at things and solutions. We have got a full grid for Daytona. It should be a great race. We've got some very fast drivers entered in that as well. Yourself included, Wolfbane.
I'm not very fast.
well, Formula X champion. You have to be pretty fast to win
okay,
that.
yeah. No, I'll take that back.
So, yeah, it's going to be a good fight, I would think, for all the positions.
Yeah.
Let's just hope it runs smooth. That's kind of my big worry. Is, yeah, will it run smoothly? Will any glitches happen? And that's partly why I'm a little bit worried about broadcasting it live. But we'll see how it goes. If I feel confident about it, I will broadcast it live. If not, it will be on Monday night in the usual spot that Formula X is on, or was on. So we'll see how that goes. But any fond memories of the first season, well, first year, should I say, rather than season, of SNL?
Well, I think my first race is always a good one. Very much went into that as a kind of I'm going to put this a bit on the back burner, not really sure if I'll stick around kind of thing, and then finish, what was it, 2 or 3 seconds behind you in the same car?
Yeah.
And in P4, I believe, which I think was the beginning of all this now. Yeah, it was, yeah, it's a very fond memory of mine. Yeah.
I mean, in the chat, Tiny Terror did say that he wanted to thank everybody that's involved. He's only done one series so far, but it's the most enjoyable I've ever done. What a wonderful and welcoming community. That is something that's been fed back constantly to me about the community in SNL. It's what I want it to be. I want it to be a welcoming place that people can come and enjoy and not take things too seriously, but have fun, but don't take the mick as well. And Salek saying some good, clean racing. Some quality drivers. Porsche Cup has been good fun, as well as the team endurance event. So we have the Porsche Cup there that is there for the GT3 sort of guys that enjoy those races, and some great battles that have happened in that as well, some tactical battles. Matt Psycho, Blue Moon, Season 4 of Formula X, working with Illusion and Cool Dude Boy. That was an epic race. Matt Psycho winning that, and also Season 3 champion. Get well, Matt, as well. Unfortunately, not with us tonight. Hopefully, one day he will join us for one of these Formula 1 podcasts. Eventually. He is scheduled to be joining us at some point, but things just keep getting in the way. So it is a great community. It's great that everybody gets along and enjoys that side of things. And obviously, we'll try and keep it going, but it is tricky at the moment with the way that GT7 is. Maybe we have to just run some single events for the moment and hold off on the series, because some of the series that we have in place will not work with the way that the game works at the moment. So, for example, there's no qualifying in the game. There's no way to set up a custom grid, so touring cars can't work as it did. Porsche Cup can't work in the way that it did. And Formula X, unfortunately, as it stands right now, can't work as it did because of the way the power rating works. So we're just sort of looking and seeing what's happening and really keeping an eye on it. But hopefully next week at Daytona, it is going to be a fantastic event and enjoyable one. That is the key. Good fun and just enjoying it, and if things go wrong, they go wrong, and we learn, and that's what SNL has been all about since that very beginning, and since all the stresses of Season 2, and I'll reveal the curtain. A week before Season 2 was about to start, I didn't think we were going to get a grid. So it was very, very, very stressful. It's behind the curtains, but we are here, we've made it a year, let's see how long we can go on for. So, all of that has come to an end. So, Wolfbane,
yes,
are you ready for your favourite part of the podcast?
Absolutely. Let's
Absolutely.
get more than one right this time, shall we?
Shall we try and go for more than one in the quiz? So, if you are listening, if you are listening, then... Oh, I've lost all the bits and pieces. Mika's in the chat. Sorry, Mika. For some reason, my YouTube comments stopped. My main memories, says Mika, are from Season 1 of Porsche Cup, where I had 2 races of taking the lead going into Turn 1, once from 3rd on Monza and then from 4th at Autopolis. Autopolis was a fantastic race in Porsche Season 1. It was on the short circuit. I had some great battles in Porsche Cup, particularly with Sarek at Monza. The team style of Formula X, says Pat, to have that kind of team event was a first for me, and it was been enjoyable. It helps having had a series winning driver and a winning team way back in Season 1. Pat, Aston Martin, Season 1, team champions. Yes. Matt Psycho and myself in the same team.
What a terrifying team.
Well, to be honest, I was absolutely shocking in the first 5 races of that season. I was driving that car awfully, and then realised actually I was way off the pace because I was not pushing it to its limits. And some would say I never really found out how to push that car to its limits either. But there we go. we did well that first season, Pat. Fantastic memories as well at Aston Martin. So, going to the quiz, Wolfbane. Question number 1. Perez got his first pole position and had to wait a record number of races. Now, how many GPs has he started, including the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix?
Including the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. I'm going to say 215.
Oh, you're absolutely spot on. There you go. There's your first question correct.
I wasn't sure if
Didn't
it was
even need the
15
options.
or 16.
There we go. The next question. How many corners are there on the Jeddah street circuit?
25? At a guess?
There are options if you want them.
Yeah, go on, let's have the options.
Well, 27, 28, 29 or 30?
28.
Oh
dear.
It is in fact 27.
Oh dear.
So it's a good job I asked you if you wanted to go for the options, because 25 wasn't there.
Yeah. I just saw Pat get it right in the chat.
Pat got it right. 27 officially. It is. I'm going by the official ones. You maybe find some weaving happening down the back straight.
They had a few more corners in.
And finally, how many cars finished the race this season? Actually finished, were moving at the end of the race.
At Saudi Arabia.
At Saudi Arabia.
14.
You said 14 earlier.
I did say 14 earlier.
So the options were, if you're listening at home, 12, 13, 14 or 15. Wolfbane has gone for 14. His record so far this season has been 1 correct answer each podcast. And Pat's saying 13. So Pat's disagreeing with you, Wolfbane. How confident do you feel now?
Fairly confident, seeing as I was reading it off the page earlier.
Okay. So...
I might be wrong, but...
Well, your record of 1 correct answer every podcast continues, because it is 13. Alex Albon officially didn't finish. He wasn't moving at the end of the race. I thought it was 14, and then looked across and it said DNF next to his name. So it is 13 drivers finishing the race. So Pat has beat you with 2 correct answers. You've got 1 again. How does that feel, Wolfbane?
I need to improve, I think. My trivia is lacking.
Could do better. To be honest, I don't know if I'd have got 13.
I don't know where I got 14 from looking back at the page I was looking at, because it says 13.
Oh, brilliant. So even your own research has gone wrong and backfired on you. There you go.
It says 14, but it also says DNF. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Strange.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Bizarre.
Anyway, on that note, thank you very much, Wolfbane, for joining me for this chat. Thank you, everybody that's been listening. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. It is Daytona next weekend, so, as I say, we'll either be live on the Sunday night or most likely be live on Monday night with a full replay of the race from GT7, our first event on the game. It does look spectacular. We are starting in the evening as well, so we'll be racing into the night at Daytona. It's going to look fabulous on the game, so just join us for that. Look at the pretty pictures, look at the pretty cars, because I won't be able to tell you any information of what's going on based on the fastest laps or anything else. I'll just be able to say so-and-so's in first and so-and-so's in second. So, yeah, join us for that next week. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, everybody that has made SNL what it is and continues to make it what it is. It's a great community. Join us, like, share, subscribe, comment in the Discord. Yeah, just bring lots of people around and we'll try and make do with what we have at the moment. So, good night. God bless. I don't know why I said that, actually. Night. I want to go to bed. Good night, everybody.